Welcome to the Elevate Media Podcast with your host, Chris Anderson. In this show, Chris and his guests will share their knowledge and experience on how to go from zero to successful entrepreneur. They have built their businesses from scratch and are now ready to give back to those who are just starting. Let's get ready to learn, grow, and elevate our businesses. And now, your host, Chris Anderson.
I am Chris Anderson, your host, and I'm looking forward to today's conversation. And I think most of you will as well, especially if you are trying to grow your brand or business on LinkedIn. We have, the magician, the expert of LinkedIn. I'll let him talk about a little bit about it, but he's done amazing on LinkedIn. And so we got Jordan Mendoza on the show today, and looking forward to just me personally picking his brain, asking a lot of questions so I can get better on LinkedIn. And I hope you guys will take something from it as well. So looking forward to that. Jordan, welcome up today.
Hey, it's an honor to be here, Chris. Anytime I get a chance to speak and potentially help somebody get better, that's what I'm all about.
Absolutely. And I'd love for you, I'm going to give you the floor, the stage for a second, and just tell everybody about yourself, high level, and what you do.
Perfect. Yeah. First off, I am a father of 5. Yep. 5 kids. I don't know if we're the crazy ones or if we're the smart ones. Time will tell for sure. But yeah, father of 5, married to my wife, Natalie. And we've got a couple things going on. I've got a couple businesses. I've got a podcast that's ranked in the top 1.5% globally called Blaze Your Own Trail. And I help a lot of businesses with digital marketing, sales, and leadership.
Awesome. Yeah. And it's 5 kids. I joke with my wife, but we can have 4, we have 6. And she's, I don't know, we got 1 right now and that's okay. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Time will tell the same thing, but that's awesome, man, that you're able to raise 5 kids, and you spend time with your wife and have a couple businesses and a successful podcast. Just a testament to what you do, who you are. And so that's really cool and thankful to have you on the show. Looking forward to diving into LinkedIn. I think it's where we're going to head with this. Drew Larson, thanks for tuning in, buddy. Good morning. Thanks for all those tuning in live and watching live. So hope you can take something away from this. But yeah, Jordan, LinkedIn, man, I know you went in the span of 8 to 9 months and grew your following to 20,000 or had amassed 20,000 followers through your strategies. Is that correct?
Yeah. It was so really the journey kind of started. I've had a LinkedIn account forever, like most people, right? It was the place that you went on when you wanted to showcase. I looked at it like if I got a promotion, I wanted the world to know about this. And I would go and do a post and show people that I got this new role, or maybe supporting a colleague that had a work anniversary or maybe a birthday, right? It was almost used for those type of milestones. And if you were looking for a job, right? Because it was like the job place that was competing with Indeed. Those were 2 big job networks. And then something started to change in 2019 when they introduced video, right? People were all of a sudden we're starting to see video on LinkedIn. And around April is around the time I started getting active. And it was actually because, Chris, my company, I was the training manager, and they gave me a goal. And they said, we want you to find a social platform that we can get associates involved in. Maybe they can learn outside of the company and get information. And so I started researching and I stumbled upon LinkedIn. And it's funny looking back, and this will be good context for the audience. April of 19, my first video, ready? It was a video where I said, hey, I'm looking for someone that does social media, maybe social media marketing, understands that I'm trying to find a platform to help my associates learn. So this is 2019. What do I do today, Chris?
You do that thing.
I use social media to help people learn to bring in revenue for their business. I look at it, I'm like, a few years ago, I didn't know the space. And now people look at me like an expert. And it's not because I'm an expert, it's because I may have more information than them. I know a little bit more than them. And really, I hope this is helpful for someone to hear. You don't have to know it all because no one does. But you have to be at least a little bit ahead of somebody in order to teach them. And the beautiful thing about teaching, because I know I did it for free for a lot of 2019 until my wife fussed at me. She's, are you charging for this, bro? Like, what are you doing? So I know that you've got it. But when you teach, you soak that knowledge back up. Every time you teach, you're gaining that again. And that's why in Japan, they say teaching is learning twice. Each time you teach, you learn it again. And so what happened, Chris, is I was putting in reps. I didn't realize it, but I was literally getting on a call with a guy like you, and I would give him tips and they would go use it and it would work. And so I started to essentially build my 12-week program. The early days of it was by testing out what I was doing, testing that same strategy with other people. They were having success. And then I would do it with company pages. I would find success there. And that kind of started building out the framework.
Yeah, it's just so cool because, we connected, I think early on too, way back in the day, like when we both got way back in the day, I say like it's been decades, but when we both are starting out and, I was starting out and, dabbling in business and what that looked like and, seeing it morph and change into now having an Elevate Media where we do podcast production, same kind of thing. I was doing podcasting through and helping people put pieces together in their lives. And then I had people asking me, how do you do a podcast? How do you launch a podcast? How do you market? How do you grow your listenership? And so do the same kind of thing. He was doing a lot of it for free. How do you edit? And just eventually, hey, maybe I should start creating this as revenue and kind of start building it. But yeah, I loved what you said and how the Japanese said, like, when you teach, you're learning twice. I think that's so true, being able to, because you have to break it down specifically in a certain way when you're teaching to people.
100%. Yeah.
You have to understand it at a different level and be able to present that to people in a way that they can take in. So I think that was a really, really good point you made there. And I'm sure when you're on this journey, diving into LinkedIn and trying to understand it better, in 2019, we've seen probably a lot of changes on that platform. What have been some of the good and bad, and let's go Clint Eastwood, and ugly changes that you've seen on LinkedIn through this time period you've been focusing on it?
Yeah, I think good. We're seeing a lot more creators. I think some people would look at that and say, if there's less people creating, then I'm going to get more views and I'm going to grow more. And what I say to that is we want more people creating, right? It's more ideas, it's more innovation, it's more content out there. And so I've loved the fact that there's more people actually attempting to create, because you can never get better at anything if you don't put in those reps, if you don't continuously put out content. And that's why when I'm working with clients, people say, hey, I took 2 days off and I noticed things changed. Why did they change? Because you took 2 days off. And so the algorithms, it doesn't matter what platform you're on, and I'm not trying to look at this like the big bad algorithm, but algorithms, the way that they work is they go based off of the data. And so if you're putting out content consistently, the algorithm naturally wants to show it to more people. Yeah. And so when you stop creating, it says, where have you been at, bro? Like you have been around for a little bit. Let's show it to this group and then we'll see how it performs. And then we'll show it to a larger group of people.
You love listening to podcasts, but have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? Maybe you want to build a brand, grow your business, or are looking for an excuse to talk about your favorite hobby. Whatever your reason for making a podcast, Buzzsprout is the place to start. Since 2009, Buzzsprout has helped over 300,000 people launch their own podcasts. Buzzsprout walks you step by step through the whole process and will give you powerful tools to start, grow, and monetize your podcast. Ready to get started? Click the link in the show notes to get our free step-by-step guide to starting your podcast today.
Yeah, and I think consistency is huge, and just sticking with it. It takes time. Like you said, you started 2019. I started in 2019, and we're not experts. We're a little farther ahead than the people we're helping, like you said earlier. And that's the key, is just sticking with it, the ups and downs, the good, the bad, the uglies, all that, and just keep pushing forward, because there's going to be changes on the platforms. There are going to be changes in the algorithm, whatever it is. And if you can just stay consistent and continue to learn what content your audience is seeking and just continually put that out there, you're going to see improvement over time. And got to give a shout out to Will. He says, love this, cooking eggs while listening to Business Talk. Thanks, man. Hey, we're glad you're tuning in and listening. If you have any questions, let us know on LinkedIn. But yeah, Jordan. So with that, right now, 2022, March, which is crazy. We're already in March. Golly. But what do you see LinkedIn? Do you see LinkedIn going a certain direction this year with maybe some new things that are coming out that not many know of that you might know, or just the direction the platform's headed, before we dive into how to actually utilize LinkedIn to grow?
Yeah, I think the few things I've noticed that they're really making pushes towards recently is the creator community. They just have their first cohort of the LinkedIn Creator Accelerator. I think it's 10 or 12 week program where they're teaching people and they're giving them inside looks at some of the stuff that's releasing, maybe features that other users don't have. And so what I like about that is you get real people, you get real case studies of people testing these things out and trying to figure it out before the masses do. And of course, for LinkedIn, that's great for them because they're using people who are already, if they're selecting you, there's a reason, right? There's a reason that they see you, they're watching, they're seeing your content. Maybe you've got a positive message, something like that. And the fact that they're investing in creators, I think is huge. And we're seeing that with TikTok. We see that with Instagram, with Reels. If I hear people say they don't have a job, well, start creating Reels and they'll actually give you bonuses. Like I've got one right now where I can earn up to $1,000 just by putting out videos that I'm going to put out anyways. And there's no shortage of ways to monetize your brand. And there's no better time, I feel like, in history than today. The best time was yesterday. The second best time is now to start putting your message out because you can become your own media system. And that's essentially what I've done with LinkedIn. My goal is to reach as many people as I can, to put out a positive message, to show them what's possible, to blaze their own trail. That's what my whole brand is about. And so I want as large of an audience as I can get, not for the vanity's sake, but so that I can reach an impact. And the only way to get there is to put out content, is to show up consistently. It's to engage with your audience and then take the online offline. Don't just connect with people on the platform, but maybe jump on a call like this or a live interview and really get to know people. Because the missing ingredient that I see on LinkedIn today is people aren't really about building contextual relationships. And business is about relationships, because if you have a relationship, that's sustainable. Transactions are easy, folks. Like I can go do a transaction any day of the week. It means nothing, but relationships take time. You got to nurture them. And so when I think about what does the sales cycle of the platform look like, right? It's make sure your profile's dialed in. It's got to be optimized so that you can reach the maximum possibility of viewing potential, because that's your intro to people. From there, make sure you're creating content that either is empowering, engaging, inspiring, entertaining, consistently engage with that audience. Make sure you're communicating and nurturing relationships, and then take the online offline. That's really essentially, at the end of the day, that's what the sales cycle of the platform looks like.
Absolutely. And it's such a, depending on if that's where your audience, of course, is there. It's
they're there. I don't care.
It's true. I was about to say.
Like, I would love to argue with anyone that says they can't find clients or people or book readers or podcast listeners or food eaters. You know what I'm saying? I don't care what you do. Your clients are there. You just might not know how to find them.
That's a good point.
So that's what I do is I'm teaching people how to actually find their ideal audience and then turn those into potential business partnerships, right? Strategic things like we're doing together, you know, and that's what it's all about. It's about how do we leverage this platform for the good. And that means business. That means relationships. You know?
And I think that's a great point too, because I think when I first dabbled in LinkedIn, and man, I don't even remember how long ago it was, but I think back then, I think it was less, not saturated, but less used. But now so many people are utilizing it and seeing the benefit. I think, exactly to your point, you can find your audience, your target market there for sure. And so let's pivot a little with that, because we're on LinkedIn now. We're trying to get in front of that target audience, that target market. You mentioned optimizing your profile.
Yeah.
So what does that look like? I know there's a lot on the profile that we can be digging into, or are there some main areas we need to focus on?
Yeah, 100%.
And how? Yeah.
I'll give you guys the strategies. We're actually going to pause just for a second, and I'm going to give you guys time, like literally take notes, because if you make these changes, and this is not a guess because I help clients with this all the time, if you implement what I'm going to tell you, you will actually see positive results. And that's what I want for anyone that's going to watch or listen to this, or maybe you're watching this live. Actually, right now, before we move forward, if you're watching this live, type in the comments the word live. All right. If you're watching this on the replay, which will be after he publishes this, type in hashtag replay. All right. And
There
then
we
that
go.
way, Chris is going to, is that helpful, Chris? That
Yeah,
way we know
absolutely.
who's engaging. Do we have any
For sure.
comments that have been coming in? Any livers, anyone watching? So that way
Not
we
at
can,
this moment. Hopefully we
okay,
do here in a second.
perfect. And maybe we'll end up seeing some replays tomorrow, which is fine. So
For sure.
when you get to this place, though, here's what you want to think about. Every platform, I don't care if you're on LinkedIn, if you're on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all of them, your bio has to be optimized, right? Because that's what people are looking at first. It's like your first impression. Okay, so LinkedIn has some really unique features that you are able to actually optimize. And the first one is actually your cover image. Okay, this is the thing that most of you watching this, it's probably blank. It's their standard LinkedIn banner that you haven't changed because, frankly, you just didn't think it was a big idea or a big deal. So I'm going to tell you, folks, this is a massive deal because this is essentially your free billboard that anybody that lands on the platform can literally look at and learn about you. Okay, so if you are actually on LinkedIn right now, or if you're watching this on LinkedIn and you go to my platform, you clearly know what I do. It says, I help entrepreneurs blaze their own trail. Of course, it's a little vague. I want it to be. It's got my company logo on one side. It's got my podcast logo. It's got places on social you can find me, an image of me. And so I'm highlighting exactly what I want you to see to get you interested to keep looking down and read more. Does that make sense, Chris?
Yeah, it does. Absolutely.
So that's actually phase one. That's where I would start. I would get that billboard because, folks, billboards are not cheap. You know, if you're like a business that wants to invest in a billboard on the side of the road, you're going to be spending some coin. And guess what, folks? This is how much LinkedIn charges you for that. It's zero.
Right.
So you might as well maximize it.
Yeah.
Think about a call to action. Maybe, hey, DM me for leadership ideas, right? Hey, I'd love to connect. Send me a message, right? Test things out. That's what marketing is all about, is it's testing. If you have an event coming up, what I would have done for this, Chris, is I would have changed the billboard and said, interviewing Jordan Mendoza on March 1st, right? And then people would see that. It would draw attention to the event, right? So there's so many things you can do, I won't get into more strategy, but hopefully, is that helpful to start out with?
Yeah, no, definitely. Because I think, you think that's the first thing people see. And I realized I was checking out mine while you were talking about it. And I didn't realize when you're going live on video,
it takes up that space.
Yeah, the live video takes up that banner. That's neat. And we have people tuning in. So thanks, guys, for commenting and everything. Okay, so the banner.
So that's step one.
Yeah.
I would look at that and say that is ground zero. That's step one because it's the largest piece of real estate outside of your about summary, but it's the biggest visual piece of real estate you have.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next thing I would do is look at that picture of you. If you have a picture, Chris, and you're wearing a suit and tie, I'm like, bro, that's not you. That might have been you in 2017 before the pen. You know what I'm saying? So make sure your picture represents you today.
Yeah.
Not like yesterday or 2019 you, or I just graduated college with my cap on version of, you know what I'm saying? That we see those types of things, but make sure it's a representation of you, because here's the thing, folks. When you're on LinkedIn, we're dealing with humans. There's a human on the other side of every profile. Okay. And so if people can relate to you as a human, business is a little easier, and it's going to make sense as we're moving our way down, because there's a few more things I want to share. So you got a question about that image, or you okay to go down?
No, yeah, that's good. And I think making it clear. So on mine, I took the background away. So it's just my face and a colorful match the brand coloring of Elevate behind me. That's a good strategy.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, okay. Test it out. I'm a big believer in testing.
What about the video that goes with the picture you can do? An intro video?
Yeah, so Chris now is jumping into pro tips. So if you want the pro tips on how to turn your picture into a video, DM me on Instagram, the word Blaze. Okay, so if you want to learn how to do that, we don't have time for that today, unfortunately, but because we got to move on, Chris. But let's go down right to that headline text. That's your next piece of real estate. So there's a few ways to tackle it. I see people doing heavy on the keyword side, where they're trying to get love and search from those keywords. Yeah. And then you can also do what I've done is I start with a service statement. So mine says, I help service providers build authority and monetize social media.
Cool.
And the reason why I'm doing that is if anyone types into search, service providers or service providers, social media, I'm actually going to be found based on that text. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
In addition to some of those other keywords that are in there, like podcast host, speaker, coach. I also have, you'll notice, a call to action at the very end. It says, follow me for daily positive content, right?
Okay.
Because I'm trying to tell my audience what to do. We
Yeah.
as humans, we need to be told what to do. And so when I think strategy on the headline, I usually do service statement, keywords that are relevant to being found, that I want to be found for, and then call to action at the very end.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And I've been playing around with that. So I just filled it with keywords at one point, and then I just recently changed it to do basically a service or a fact about why having a podcast is important, because 70% of listeners take action on products or services. And then I go into say, we help entrepreneurs. So I just changed it, kind of testing that, because when you send a message, that first percentage type thing. And so, I send it. So I'm doing like the testing with it as well, and changing from the keywords, but
very good. That's good. Yeah, you got to test it. And that's something, again, think about what's happening in your world. Is there an event? Is there because you have, again, this is real estate, folks. This is what people see. And you made a great point. That's what people see, is that first line when they're making a decision whether they're going to connect with you or not. So what do you want them to see? What do you want them to know? Those are the questions I would ask yourself.
Yeah. Okay. So that is with the headline. So we got all the main stuff you first see. What would be the next thing in optimizing?
Yeah. The next thing we got to tackle is that about summary. And this one is a beast, folks. And I'm going to tell you why it's a beast. You've got 2,600 characters. And I can tell you this, most people watching haven't even touched that amount of real estate that you have. And so why is it important to, Chris, do you think that you'd want to have more content there versus less?
Does it factor into searchability SEO at all?
100%.
Okay.
So factors into SEO, but also this is your opportunity. It's called the about summary. And most people get this confused with their resume, because what they do, and I see this time and time again, they copy their resume, that they paste it in their experience section, and they paste it in their about summary, and they may tweak a couple things. They may put their email address at the bottom, but you can clearly see it's either written in the third person, or you can just see that it's a copy paste job. And I'm going to tell you why it's not adding any value. That about summary is about you. I'm talking to you watching this. It's about you. It's not about it's not about the professional version of you. So what I teach my clients is, let's do this from a storytelling perspective. And let's swing for the fences right off the bat, because if you know anything about good stories and good, videos, what usually captivates people is that hook, that headline. So you want to start off. And so when I'm working with clients, I'm saying, think about your journey. What got you to here today?
Yeah.
Because what most people put is, in 2011, I got promoted to VP and my life just started to get great. And your life was way before 2011. What happened in your childhood? What lessons can you share with people that shows them who you are today and how you got there? Okay. And so if that makes sense, you've got to tell a story. And so if anyone that's watching this goes and reads mine, I'll tell you exactly what my first line says. It says, growing up with a mom that had one lung taught me a lot about what real adversity was. And again, you share as much as you want to share. I want to share that because I want to share with people where I get my strength from. And that's from the woman that raised me that had one lung, and when most of us have two.
Yeah.
And so if you read that first line, more than likely, you're going to be compelled to continue reading. Okay. Because you want to know more. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Again, hooks them into, okay, now I'm interested. What else is he saying down here? Yeah.
Yep. And if they make it through your about summary, chances are they're going to check out your content. And then that content they're going to decide for themselves, does this content match what I just read? Does that make sense? Does this stuff correlate? Because that's super important, especially when you're doing a personal brand. You could say all these amazing things, but is this how you show up?
For sure.
Is this how you're showing up through your content?
Okay. So with that, so you have that. Now we're directing them to the content we're putting out there. How do maybe we have a podcast, maybe we have a product, service, something of that nature. How can we add value on LinkedIn through our content? What's a good way to show up with valuable content to grow that?
One of the, and I'll give you guys a quick pro tip, right? This is a pro tip for your profile. I see this very underutilized on LinkedIn. It's called the feature section. Okay. And when you're on LinkedIn, you're on your profile, you hit the little more tab and it says you want to add something, you can add what's called a featured section.
Mhm.
And that featured section, what's really cool about it and the way that I teach my clients to use it is have that link to something or the one place you want all your traffic to go. So for you,
Okay.
Chris, maybe it's for Elevate Media, you want to give out the 5 top tips to launching your podcast.
Mhm.
And that's a PDF resource that you want everyone to have because you want to nurture those relationships and get them on
Yeah.
a call so you can see if you can serve them or not. Does that make
Yep.
sense?
Yeah,
That's
for sure.
essentially you can call it a lead magnet, a landing page, whatever you want to call it. But what I'm instructing my clients to do is make that your one item on your featured section.
Mm.
Because what happens is when you're telling that story in your about summary, at the end of that, there's plenty of opportunity to talk about what you do, who you serve, and how you do it.
Mhm.
And then there's also opportunity, and this is very underutilized, to write a verbal call to action that says, click on my featured section for a free resource on how to launch your podcast. So what are we doing? They've learned about us from our billboard with maybe a call to action. They've read that headline and they know how we serve. And now they've learned about us and we've told them what to do next.
That's
Does
awesome.
that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. That flow. I didn't even think about that at the end. Hey, click on the featured. Because in mine, I think it's if you want to hear more, let's chat kind of thing, schedule a call in a link in the about. And then
But they have to copy that link, right? Is it clickable or
it's clickable on the phone at least. Yeah.
And then on mobile, I believe. Yeah.
And
So
then the
I try to
featured
drive
is
them
different.
again from a measurement standpoint.
Mhm.
It's easier to point them to especially a landing page because most people have one. It's tracking clicks, it's tracking
Right.
conversions, right?
Yeah.
So you drive them to that one place. And again, that one place might change. That one place
Right.
might turn into 2 and now you've got 2 links. But
Mhm.
if you're from a measurement standpoint and from a conversion standpoint, I always instruct people just make it easy.
Yeah.
Drive your traffic to one place.
Cool. So you could even say, hey, yeah, your about could be talking about you and your podcast and follow or hit my featured to subscribe or follow or to
100%.
tune in.
Yeah.
It could
If
be
you
to
want
your
more
podcast.
downloads, point
Yeah.
it to the podcast. Yep.
Perfect. That's a good.
Yep. And mine's actually goes to like my About Me page. It's like
Mhm.
a one-page website. And then
Yep.
the second one is my podcast.
Awesome.
And it's up to you how much content you want to feature. But what
Mhm.
I always say is make sure that it's going to add value to your end goals on the platform, which my end goals are, I want to reach more people, want to impact people in a positive way. I want to show people that they can blaze their own trail through my show. I want to inspire people. So I have content that maybe has a positive message. So again, position it around what your goals are on LinkedIn.
No, that's awesome. And that's a great start to optimize your profile there on LinkedIn. And if you want more tips and guidance with that, guys, make sure you definitely get connected with Jordan and utilize just the free content he puts out there, but then connect for more guidance with his programs and things of that nature. But with that, so now you've optimized your profile and we can wrap up with this kind of conversation. But
yeah,
so your profile's optimized. How do we now organically grow? How do we, connect people correctly without turning people off? Because, people are out there just buy this, do this. How can we organically grow in the correct way on LinkedIn?
Yeah. So once optimization is done, that's the foundation, right? That's like when you're building a house, it's the, foundation that you're building. And now that the foundation's strong, you've got to go into content strategy, right? So you've got to determine for you, what are your content pillars? What is the lens that you're going to be creating through on a consistent basis? And so for me, that's entrepreneurship, it's motivation, it's podcast, it's social media. It's the lanes that I actually play in from a business and a podcast standpoint.
Yeah.
And so now that I've got that baseline, it's like now that I know the content I'm going to create, how am I going to create it? Am I going to do video? Am I going to do text posts? Am I going to do polls? Am I going to put out micro content or longer form content? And then it's putting out the content and there's so many nuances. And I think this is where most people get lost is it's not just about creating that content. Once that content's created and even going into creating it, it's copywriting you got to think about. It's open-ended questions. It's your hashtag strategy. Are you commenting so that you can drum up that engagement? Are you engaging and replying to everybody's comments? And then are you taking those relationships offline? So there's so much that goes into that. And I would love if any of you have questions that watch this, you want to connect with me, send me a message on social media. I'm pretty easy to find and I'm happy to jump on a call.
Yeah. With that, you mentioned different types of content out there. Do you find on LinkedIn one weighs heavier with the quote unquote algorithm?
Yeah.
Getting
Right
with the
now, with
polls?
most platforms,
Mhm.
Chris, it's what's new, right?
Yeah.
So,
Right.
so
Right.
what's newer on LinkedIn is polls. So polls are performing or higher organically than the other stuff because there's more attention. What's
Mm.
also newer on LinkedIn is audio, and so that's being
Okay.
pushed more. It's a Clubhouse style
Mm.
audio only conversations, and so since that's new, that's also getting pushed more. And so that's the way that most platforms work. When Reels
Yeah.
came out, like, why are they giving away a bunch of money? They want a bunch of people to use it. And so if you want to, find out which content to create, look and see what just came out. And that's where I would put your focus.
Okay. Awesome. That's good to know. And yeah, I guess I did see a little bit about that audio stuff on LinkedIn. Now I'm gonna have to dive into that a little bit more. It's an interesting thing. Clubhouse was okay. And so this will be interesting to see what that's like on LinkedIn. But yeah, no, that's great. Just guidance with that is focus on the newer things, but still utilize some of the other pieces of content going forward with that.
Yeah, consistency is the name of the game. That's
Yeah,
the bottom line.
for sure.
If you're going to show up, do it consistently. And my advice is make sure you're engaging with your audience, because if
Mhm.
you post and ghost, you post and you leave, when you come back and find no one there, there's a reason. It's because you didn't stick around,
Yeah.
because it takes time, right?
Mhm.
Like you are a commenter. We all comment on stuff, and
Yeah.
that takes time out of your day. And so if
Yeah.
someone's gonna comment to you, you should at least have that decency to reply back. And
For sure.
reciprocity is a real thing.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm curious with your opinion too on this next question I have with messaging people. Is there a good etiquette to do that?
Yes,
Is it
there is,
okay just
Chris.
to go add people and message? Yeah, let's
Listen,
dive into that a little bit.
listen. Here's my thoughts on it, and this is my perspective.
Uh-huh.
Take it for what it's worth, or leave it for what it's worth. It's up to you. But I always say, why do people go for dessert before the appetizer's even served?
Mm.
Like, what's the point of that? What's the point of, does that make sense? And so, like, when you come into my DMs and you're trying to sell, usually they're trying to sell me what I sell to other people. So
Right.
they haven't done any research,
Yeah.
and I find myself in the DMs coaching people
Hmm.
because I have empathy and I feel
Yeah.
bad that they're using a terrible strategy. Now, does that strategy work for some people? Is it a numbers strategy? 1,000%. That's what it is. And
Mhm.
if you send 1,000 people messages, there's a small percentage of them that are going to say yes,
Yeah.
but your reputation isn't going to look great.
Right.
You know
Right.
what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
I'm in this for the long term, not the short term. So I'm into not transactions, but let's talk transformation. Like, how do I
Mhm.
transform people's lives? And I heard that from the great John Maxwell, and that changed my life. He's, don't be about transactions, be about transformation. I can't transform you if I sell you something the first second I meet you. There's no transformation because we hadn't built a relationship. There's nothing sustainable there. And
Mm.
so what I do whenever I'm connecting with someone, and I'll literally, this is my script. It's like, hey, Chris, thanks so much for connecting. If there's any way I can add value to you, or provide assistance, please let me know. Have a great week. That's what it should be, because
Yeah.
that's what it is. If I met Chris in real life, I'm not gonna be like, hey, Chris, great to meet you. Do you want to buy some products and services?
Yeah. Unless you're the
Think about
Girl Scouts.
how weird that would be if we communicated like that as human beings. It should be like, hey, great connecting. If there's any way we can help each other out or collaborate, I'd love to do that, because
Yeah.
that's true. That's actually how I feel.
Mhm.
And the people that are sending the sales immediately after connecting, they're not in it to know you. Does that make sense? They're in it to get a
100%.
commission. They're in
Dude,
it
yeah.
to win now.
Yep.
And they're not thinking about the future.
Yeah, and when I started, that's how I was being taught was, hey, just numbers, send out a bunch of just sales messages, and it felt crummy to me, and
Yeah.
I went with it for a while, and then I learned from people who were actually doing what I wanted to do and get to the levels I wanted to
Yeah.
do. They're like, hey, like you said, it's about transformation, it's about relationship, and so it definitely changed that, and it can still improve. I'm still looking at
100%.
my
Yeah.
messaging, and I'm like, did that come off too strong? Did that come off the wrong way? Like, again, just what you've iterated on everything is test it. If you have people come back and say, hey, I don't even know you, or whatever it might be,
You want me to solve your problem right now, Chris?
Yeah, go ahead. Do it.
You ready? So this is another pro tip, but this is bonus hour for you guys.
There we go.
So here's what you do. If you think your messages are making you feel a little weird, leave them a voice note, right?
Yeah.
Leave them a voice note.
Yeah.
Why not? Why not? You can probably say what you wanted to say. You have 60 seconds to say what you want to say. And I'll tell you this, when I get voice notes, and you probably can attest to this if you've gotten them, it feels special.
Yeah.
So maybe if you're in your head about the message, change the medium of how you're delivering it.
Yeah. I've done that, and I've done actually like little video clips too.
Video. There you go. That's another great idea. Show up on camera, send them a video. Mix it up, guys. If you're getting stuck on one thing, like you're stuck on it. So you got to change. Like, how do you get unstuck? You got to change your environment. You can't keep doing the same thing. So hopefully that's helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it is. And you just have to take note on what's happening, the results you're getting, and tweak and test and just change things up. Man, this has been great. LinkedIn was a real kind of dark horse for me, social media wise. It's probably my least. I'm not going to do anything on LinkedIn, and I started getting more into it, and plus it helps. We provide services for businesses, and so I was like, okay, that's where I need to be. So I was learning more on my own, and this has been a good conversation. So people, like, this is gold, guys. If you're trying to grow on LinkedIn, I hope you are taking notes. If not, go back and watch this again, connect with Jordan, but just phenomenal. So I appreciate you sharing all that. Yeah. The last thing I ask all my guests basically is, the fifth trait is that everyone's created uniquely with potential and purpose to leave a positive mark on the world. And so when everything is said and done for you here on Earth, Jordan, what do you hope your positive mark is?
Yeah, mine is all about legacy. It's legacy for my kids. We've got 5 children, and we didn't really dive into my story or journey. Very humble beginnings. Shouldn't have made it more than probably 3 or 4 times. And didn't have a father. Didn't meet my dad till I was 12. Wow. And so raising my kids is super important to me. Trying to be present for them, but also as I got older, realizing that I can't carry resentment. So getting my dad involved in their lives and having him be a part of that. And this is why I do everything I do. It's for them. It's to create that legacy, knowing that I've helped them and I've set them up, but not given them things, but I've given them lessons and I've taught them. And my hopes is that my kids are involved in things that I do. But if they don't like it, I'm going to support whatever they want to do. And I think as a parent, that's all that you can ask for, is that with your kids, because I've seen it done the wrong way in a few different occasions. And it's, let's have those kids do what we want them to do because we missed out on X, Y, or Z. But what my goal is, let me just invest in their strengths. Let me just invest in them. And that's what happiness is going to look like for me as a parent.
That's awesome. So good. And just by watching you, connecting with you, and just seeing what you've been doing, you're definitely building that legacy. It's great to be connected with you and having you on the show. Where can people find you, find out more about you, man?
Yeah, so probably the easiest place, you can just go to jordanjmendoza.com. You'll learn a little bit more about me. You can connect, learn about some of the things I do, the podcast, some of the YouTube stuff. Also, all on social media, LinkedIn, send me a connection request. Instagram is at Jordan J. Mendoza, TikTok at Jordan J. Mendoza, Twitter, pretty much the same handle everywhere. And I'd love to connect with you.
Appreciate that, Jordan.
No problem.
And your willingness to be on here today. Again, guys, Jordan Mendoza, founder, CEO of Blaze Your Own Trail Consulting. Jordan, thanks again.
My pleasure, buddy. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Elevate Media Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. See you in the next episode.